Three, two, one.
Hey Village, it's your girl Tasha Ray, the voice of Womanhood Decoded, where each episode I endeavor to explore the intersections of womanhood, motherhood, and sexuality. So it is 2025, and whew, doesn't it sound crazy just to say 2025? But we made it, to those of us who have made it. So let's cheers to that. So today I am back in black. And the reason for that is because I am excited to continue on my quest to do everything black moving forward for 2025. I want to let you know that my goal is to focus on small black businesses and women in business for a good part of 2025, not just because I happen to be both black and female, but because I feel that we are an underserved or marginalized part of our society. And I just want to do my part to make sure that our stories and our voices are amplified. So, I want to get into what it is that I have been doing so far this year. So far, I have been getting my daughter back into the swing of things as it pertains to school. I gotta take a minute to just give a warm hug virtually to all of the parents that survived Christmas break with your children. And when I say survived, I mean it. Those of you who are parents, you already know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to break it down to those of you who are not parents, who might not know the realities of what it is to be in your residence with your child while everything else is closed because it's the holidays. So I did a lot of puzzles. I did a lot of building of blocks, watching Disney movies, coloring, singing songs, and all of the above. And I feel like I had a great time doing so. However, I could not wait to get my daughter back into the schedule of her regular routine. And that is because until she is able to get into her schedule, I am unable to get into my schedule because I am a solo parent. And so, I don't get the opportunity to just tap out, so to speak, as it pertains to, taking terms and all of the above. So, thank you so much for affirming my view when I am speaking about parenthood. To those of you who are watching on Instagram, I appreciate it. I just feel like also much of society looks forward to Friday. As a parent, again, I look forward to Monday. Why? Because again, I get to drop my daughter off for X amount of hours, and then I can do what I need to do. And I don't want it to sound or come across like I want to be rid of my child, but it is a lot to deal and manage the emotions of a toddler who has the attention span of, I'm just going to say, a short attention span. And she can fire off questions just as quickly as she can blink her eyes. And so to say that I am emotionally drained and exhausted after Christmas break would be an understatement. I feel I need a break. But that's just not what's going to happen right now. So I want to get into 2025 and what my goals are for the podcast, and also what my personal goals are. Some of them I feel like sharing. So I want to start off with my reading list, and I did not buy physical books for the month of January because December was Christmas. And to be quite honest, I did a lot during the Christmas season financially. And so I'm trying to scale back a little bit. And so I have been utilizing my Kindle. And here you can see a lot of the books or the book covers that I have been reading as of late. And the one that has really captured my attention is called Tough Titties by Laura Belgray. And you heard me right. It is Tough Titties. And the thing that I like about the book is the author is unapologetic about her quest for both authenticity and acceptance, and how it can be an almost an impossible task for one to both be themselves and also seek the approval of others. So yeah, that's a lot to manage. And what I like about the book is I feel as if I'm sitting down with an old friend, and it's been a really good read because so much of her story runs parallel with my life as it pertains to being bullied and being the outcast and all of the above, and the last one picked when it came to social settings in middle school. But then I guess you could obviously say that I was a late bloomer socially, maybe not physically, because I got my boobs, somewhere around 10th grade. I've always had them since then. So once I got boobs, that really changed my social standing. But prior to boobs, life was hard. And I have spoken about it on previous podcasts where my hair was often the focal point of the teasing and the hate because, well, it didn't look like others. And so because of that, while in this time in our society, differences are celebrated. When I grew up in the early 90s, everybody was striving towards sameness as opposed to celebrating uniqueness. And so I say all that to say that when the author is talking about in the book, again, Tough Titties, when she's talking about how she was bullied and how being bullied propelled her to be successful, um, that truly resonated because for me, some of the girls that were just awful to me, um, looking at where they are in life and then looking at where I am, not to say that I feel like I've arrived at this, huge pinnacle of success. But the way that she puts it in the book, she says that they are basic, the women that once tortured her. And the fact that she has matriculated through life to surpass her 40s and is still thinking back to things that happened to her in middle school, that shows you that what happens in one's childhood can dramatically shift one's outlook and the way in which one moves. And I just want to make sure that I take time to, hold space for the oddballs and the weirdos and the geeks, because I'm definitely one of you. And looking at me now, you might not have known that was, or those are my people, but that is absolutely the case. And so reading how she speaks about how she was not motivated by society's standards placed upon her generation as it pertained to checking off certain boxes, whether it was you need to do this by a certain time, whether it is, attaining a degree or getting a particular job or whatever have you. She said that she seemed to be always behind the curve. And the fact that she was behind the curve while also being able to reach the level of success that she has is proof that anybody can do it if you set your mind to it. And as I was speaking in another episode about Kiki Palmer's book, Master of Me, it kind of echoes the same thought in that you have to prepare for opportunity. And when you are operating at your best and at your highest, that is when the universe will bring about opportunities to you. And so I just want to encourage you, whether you're male or female, Tough Titties is a definite good read, on a good way to transition into the year, in that it is educational and insightful, but it's not heavy reading. And as a reader, I just feel that some would say I'm a voracious reader. I just feel that we all need to at least read, I'm going to say 6 books a year. I feel like that's a goal that we all can try to get to. I read multiple books a month, but everybody has a different speed. And so I just want to say that whatever it is that you choose to read will definitely be to your benefit. But if you need a suggestion, go ahead and check out Tough Titties. And it again is by Laura Belgrade. Okay, so moving on, I want to talk about New Year's resolutions and or goals. And the reason I want to talk about that is because, well, it's that time of year. And the funny thing is, it seems that some people have already let go of their New Year's resolutions, and it's only January 8th. And so I think one of the main reasons why people tend to lose focus of their goals as it pertains to resolutions is because, well, they don't break them down into workable pieces for them to work towards. So let's say you have a huge goal, whatever it might be. Let's say the goal, let's
Make sure Bluetooth is connected.
it was my glasses talking to me. So let's talk about, I guess, give me a second, Village, as I get back to where I was in my thoughts. Oh, New Year's resolutions. Yes. The reason why we get off track is because we are focusing on the hugeness of whatever it is that we would like to accomplish, but we haven't actually written it down and tried to strategize a plan of action. And I feel like whatever it is, if you want to this year get a apartment because you have housemates, or if you want to start a podcast, or if you want to put out a song, whatever it is that you want to do, you have to start somewhere. And so if you don't start somewhere, it's just going to be this thing that's in your mind, and you're not going to probably make any headway. However, if you write it down, your research says that you are 50% more likely to press forward if you've written it down. And so that is what brings me to this item right here. This is called the Simplified Planner. So turn your attention to this item right here. If we can get this item right here on camera. Thank you so much. So this item right here, the Simplified Planner, the reason why it is important is because for me, it is a tool that enables me to put down my goals for the day and to also track what I am doing throughout the day. So as you can see, I have already been very busy this year, even though it's only day 8. But what I like is how the day is broken down into a to-do list and then what you actually accomplished. So sometimes you can have huge goals, but what you actually accomplish and what you plan to accomplish, there can be a discrepancy between the two. But when you write it down, as opposed to looking at it on a screen, for example, you will notice that there is a space. And when you continue to write it down, and let's say every day you write down a goal of 10 things, but you only accomplish one thing, at some point your brain is going to say, okay, I need to do some sort of adjustment so that I can bridge these two lists so they can be more in alignment. Because I feel like a lot of us get stuck in procrastination and stagnation because we have a fear of what happens if we're actually successful. Like, what does that look like? If you no longer have any excuses, if the big job that you've been looking about or thinking about and planning towards, what happens if you actually are called for that job? Or what happens if you're a freelancer and all of a sudden you are brought in by someone that can completely change your life? I feel like, especially in our society as it pertains to social media, we have this idea that it goes from 0 to 100, and it can oftentimes look like that on social media. But in real life, I'm here to tell you that there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and there's a lot of preparation and planning and strategizing, and there's a lot of failing and a lot of failing forward. Because the point I want to emphasize is perfection is not the goal. Progress is the goal. But in having the simple practice of writing, you will understand that you will start to see yourself differently when you start to write down what it is that you are doing and what your goals are. And it's kind of like your own accountability to yourself. When you've written down you want to elevate your brand, or you want to scale your company, or you want to make more merchandise, but then you're not doing not one thing towards any of that, you're going to realize that you are probably the problem. And it's probably not society entirely. I'm not saying that life is fair, because we all know that life isn't. But I feel that those of us that choose to be consistent, that choose to be prepared, that choose to plan, even though things might not always go according to plan, there is a difference in the results when it comes to one's overall life trajectory. And so I had the opportunity of going to a fun event earlier this week. And it was sponsored by a social club that I just joined called Parlor. And I was referred to the group by a colleague. Anyway, it was podcast club, and typically I wouldn't have the ability to attend an event during the work/school week because of childcare situations or trials and tribulations or challenges. However, I was able to overcome that with the help of my village. And so therefore I was able to be in attendance. And one of the things that we spoke about in the group was how we have a lot of self-talk and self-doubt in our minds. But then when we are speaking to other people, we tend to blame things on, quote unquote, the man, or society is holding me down, or my baby mama's holding me back, or my life circumstances are holding me down. But I'm not saying that any of those things are not true, but I am saying that everybody that makes it has some level of difficulty that they are navigating in the midst of also being successful, either financially or professionally. So what I want you to understand is that whomever it is that you are looking up to, or that you idolize, or that you want to follow in their footsteps, understand they're a real person that has real things going on. And just because a person might not have financial struggles and difficulties doesn't mean that they don't have real things going on. And so I say all of that to say that I feel like a lot of us oftentimes lean into excuses versus leaning into preparation. And so for me, having the journal, the simplified journal that I showed you, I feel like writing every morning before I start my day, it is a start point so that it sets the tone for the rest of my day. So even if I might get sidetracked, or even if I come into a challenge or something that's unexpected that I have to now navigate, just knowing that I have something else to fall back onto to then refocus myself and my energy, I feel like is the crucial thing that makes a very, very huge difference in how I'm able to continue to be moving forward towards whatever my various goals are, which is to obviously continue to podcast, and to continue building my brand and building my online community. All of those things are interwoven, but step one is showing up. And so, as I think it's also important to mention that even if you do have these skills, even if you do have the tools, so you have the right camera or the right makeup, let's say you're a makeup artist, or you have the right track, oftentimes people don't receive messages, not because they don't like the message, but because something about the messenger distracts them from the message. So to break this all the way down, let's say you are an up and coming journalist, for example, and let's say you want to be taken seriously and you are doing everything that you can, and that you believe that you're doing everything that you can. But because you're tired, and because, you have bills that are coming through, but you don't have any income, so you are stressed out financially. And as a result, that starts to take a toll on your physical appearance. What you will notice is that I don't want people to be stuck on just appearances. But I want you to understand that appearances do matter. And I'm going to see if we can check the audio. Thank you so much, Astoria, for telling me that you can't hear me, but you can see me. We're going to check the levels right now to see.
The audio of what? The Matrix?
Uh-huh. They are saying on Instagram that they are unable to hear.
I'm looking at Instagram. I don't see nobody on Instagram.
It's on mine, on Tasha's Views. That's why I was looking at it right here. So I'm just wanting to make sure that.
Remember, we didn't get on your Instagram because you wasn't able to sign in.
Well, yeah, we will work on that. But for whatever reason, I don't know why you all can't hear. Hopefully, if you all go either to Facebook, or if you go to the Matrix network, you can hear. So they are getting audio on other platforms, but for whatever reason, you all just, for whatever reason, can't hear me on Tasha's Views. So I apologize for that, and we will work through that moving forward. So thank you again, Astoria, for letting me know that. But moving on, I just think that it is important for us to know that part of being prepared, part of making sure that we get the opportunities that we feel like we should, I want to make sure that we are doing the very best that we can to show up as our best selves, regardless to whatever difficulty that we might actually be navigating. And I can already see my DMs and comments saying, but if I don't have money to get my hair done, then my hair is going to be a mess. Well, I'm sure you know somebody in your circle. You got a cousin, you got a best friend, you know somebody that you can slide some money to under the table that can help you get your hair together, so that when you do get the opportunity to pitch your concept, or to talk about your show, or to come and perform, that you can do so, and do so in a way that is going to be reflective of your talent and skills, and not reflective of the difficulty that you're currently navigating. navigating. So that's the message that I want to get across, is that all of us are going through something. But there is a saying that says, thank God I don't look like what I'm going through. And, to some that might seem like, well, that's inauthentic. Or if I'm going through a struggle, I want people to feel my struggle because I want them to look at me and see I'm struggling. And then therefore maybe they'll be moved to assist. I mean, that might be a strategy that might be useful in some scenarios. But I want to say, by and large, particularly that we are in New York City, the place where dreams come true, some say, and the financial district and all of those things, the top richest people happen to be here, whether it is people that are in real estate or the entertainment industry or whatever have you. The top tier people are here in the city. And so because of that, there is an expectation that comes with that when it comes to how people present themselves. And so the other day, I had the opportunity to speak to some aspiring journalists, and I was explaining to them how, while things have shifted in journalism, in that, for example, you don't have as many opportunities to get experience because funds have been allocated elsewhere, whether it be brands choosing to work with content creators as opposed to a seasoned professional. And you might think, well, what does a content creator have to do with journalism? Well, all of us have to do our working in media, and brands tend to look at numbers. And so if you don't have an active audience, if you don't have engagement, then it appears as if you don't have the ability to influence. And that's the whole point of advertising, is that they want to tap into a community. So if you're unable to show that you have a community, therefore it creates a barrier. And so sometimes, or I know that I in particular felt a little bit bothered by the fact that when it was COVID, all of these influencers and content creators seem to be popping up like weeds. And the jobs that I would normally get, whether it was, working for an online magazine or whatever it was, I had difficulty because I was competing with a content creator. I was competing with an influencer. And so, for example, we were on apps like Twitter before the name change, and on Clubhouse, and we were there to redirect or attempt to redirect the masses because misinformation was swirling and being pushed, because content creators had the attention of American eyes in a way that they hadn't before, because everyone was stuck in their houses. And so because everyone was quarantined, now people were spending huge amount of time consuming content. Whereas if you are a journalist and you're under contract, then you, for example, didn't have the opportunity to build your personal brand and platform, because that would have been a conflict of interest. But content creators, on the other hand, they had these millions of followers. So if they say, if a content creator says you don't need to get the COVID shot because it's going to, make you brain dead in 2 days, then, you had a lot of people feeling like they were going to be brain dead in 2 days because a content creator said so. And so whereas a journalist, when we say something, we have to provide proof and sources and show our research, or, like they used to say way back in the day, show our work in math. As a journalist, you're expected to show why it is you are saying whatever it is that you're saying. However, a content creator, on the other hand, doesn't have those same doesn't have that same criteria to live under. And so therefore they can just say whatever it is that is their opinion, and all is well with the world. And so I'm saying all of this to say that the only way for you to be able to tap in and build a community is through consistency and through preparation. And part of the preparation is how you physically show up to places, because that communicates that you have self-respect for yourself, self-respect for your craft, and it shows that you are taking yourself, and you're taking your brand, that it's important to you, because it's important for you to show up as your best. And so moving into 2025, I just want to encourage all of us to try to show up as our best selves moving forward, because there is room at the table of success for all of us. We just have to do the work. And like I said, it was very important for me to start the show wearing black, and the fact that I am black, because I feel that we can overcome, we can continue to thrive. And I feel like all of us are tired of surviving or just getting by. I think all of us want more for ourselves, want more for our family, want more for our circle. And so in every circle or every family, there's always that one person that seems to skyrocket into success as compared to the rest of the family. So, for example, in my family, I was the first on my father's side to graduate from university. And, obviously, there have been numerous cousins that have followed in my footsteps. But the fact that it hadn't been done on my father's side before me, it was something that I knew that I had to do, or I felt like I had to do. And I sometimes think, well, what would have happened in my life if I didn't, in fact, feel the pressure to push forward, or I didn't feel the pressure to succeed? What would have happened? I'm not really sure what would have happened, but I do know what has happened since I have decided to stay on, for a time at least, the conveyor belt of consistency and being prepared. I have seen really good results in doing so. And so I wanted to make sure that I passed that information along. And you might be thinking, well, why is all of this important as we are moving into a new year? Well, I feel like it's important because we all know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting to have different results. So what I'm trying to illustrate is that there are a lot of different ways for us to go in life. And while I don't feel like we should be under this constant pressure to perform and to succeed, I do think that some of us need to be shaken to our senses, because, if we don't do something different, life would pass us by. And I just don't want that for any of us. I want us to be able to look back at our lives and to be proud of ourselves at what we were able to overcome and what we are able to achieve. And remember, as I just said, you can be the one person in your family or the one person in your circle to make the difference, so that others will then have the opportunity to see somebody that they actually know. Because seeing somebody that you know succeed, even if it's a small success, can be the catalyst for somebody else choosing to try their hand at something that they might have previously not even thought of. And I just feel like as a community, we need to support those that we see that are trying. Because, like I said, failing forward or moving forward should be the objective, not perfection. Because I think we get stuck in the paralysis of perfection, and then we don't actually ever start whatever our goal or whatever our dream is. It's just that big dream or that big thing in our minds. But as I'm trying to connect all of the dots, if you are writing it down in some sort of planner, if you are talking to other people about whatever your goals and your dreams are, if you are taking that course, if you are showing up to that open mic, if you are showing up to that freelance opportunity, it doesn't really matter if you get it when you show up, but you need to recognize that whatever it is that you're doing, it's a numbers game. So you're going to be, there's going to be times when someone else is going to be picked outside of yourself. But know that if you keep showing up, you will eventually get selected, even if it's just because people are like, well, my goodness, every time I look up, I see this Tasha girl at places. And so, yes, you will see me wherever there is something that has to do with entrepreneurship, podcasting, or women's health issues. Those are reasons that if there's anything going on in New York City or the tri-state area, and even as far as Washington, D.C. and that tri-state area, I will be there, because I feel not only that I should represent and make sure that you all that are a part of my village is in the know. I just want people to continue to look at me as a source of accuracy and information. So to those of you who are new to my platform, for 23 years, I have worked in the field of broadcast news in some capacity, whether that is a weekend anchor or whether that is a one-man band reporter, meaning that you shoot, write, and edit all of your content, or radio work or magazine stuff. The point is if it has to do with media, I've been there and done that. And so in transitioning into podcasting, I want to bring that same level of preparation and that same level of seriousness, but I also want to bring a realness and a level of authenticity that I was unable to do because I was unable to speak freely. But being that this is my platform, meaning that it's my podcast, I have that flexibility and freedom that I never had before. And so that is one of the things that I expressed in Podcast Club earlier this week. I said, for me, podcasting is synonymous with freedom, because for me, I have the opportunity to show up the way that I want to show up. Now, I choose to show up, with my hair, nails, and all of the rest done, because that is what was required of me when I was in mainstream news. No, I know I'm under no delusion that I'm still in mainstream news now, but at the same time, I don't feel that it is appropriate for me to sit here in, for example, a hoodie, because I know that there are a lot of people that want the opportunity, but they don't get it. And I don't want people to have the misconception that if you show up however way you show up, that you're going to be taken seriously, especially in an age when it is a lot of options. And I feel like that is a great transition into what I feel like what's going on in the dating sector of our society. We are inundated with options. And because we have so many options, I feel like that sometimes puts us in a position of feeling like we shouldn't make any choice, because why would we want to make a choice when we have so many options? And what I want to just suggest is that you choose or start to at least consider those that choose you. I'm not saying that you need to fall head over heels and deeply in love or whatever with somebody that has those feelings, strong feelings towards you. But I'm saying it's a lot easier to do things as a unit, because whatever you're doing, it's easier to do it when you are doing it with someone. And whether it's building a business, building a relationship, whatever it is, it's easier if you have someone else, because you can only do so much by yourself. And I feel like a lot of us are isolated. And the crazy thing is, New York has so many people. And so you would think that because there's so many people, well, how can New Yorkers be lonely? It's because people get stuck into their routines, whatever it is, and they don't venture outside of it. And because they're comfortable there, and or it's easier to be in that frame of reference or that frame of mind. But what I want to do is I want to say that if we collectively choose to get out of our way and get out of our comfort zone, then we have the ability to do more. And I don't know. I also want to talk about this. I'm not going to say it's a fake news or fake but I just do not agree with the narrative that men and women are at odds all the time, particularly Black men and Black women. I feel like when you're looking at memes, and looking at your timeline and you see various different podcasts and on the topic, or talking heads or whomever, there's this narrative that we are always at one another's throats. So I want to take time to acknowledge the non-problematic Black men in my life, while I tend to focus in my mind on the ones that cause me stress and problems. I feel that it is important that I begin to do more to acknowledge those that are not problematic. And the reason for that is because sometimes, or most times, when I am speaking about men, it can come across from, the perspective that I feel like, I'm an independent woman. And so because I'm an independent woman, I don't need or want a man. And I want to make it clear that no, it's not that I don't need or want a man, but it's that I'm not going to wait on a man. And so there's a difference in my mind, at least. So what that means for me is if I want to go somewhere nice to eat, that means that I need to work to be able to put myself in a financial situation so that when I want to go to my favorite restaurant, I don't have to wait for a man to ask me out on a date. I can take myself and whoever it is that I decide where I want to go because I can afford it. And so I just think that we need to recognize and not buy into the narrative that we're all at each other's throats or that we're all at odds. Because in my own personal life, there have been several Black men that have supported me, encouraged me, and been a shoulder for me when I needed it most. And so I want to just say shout out to everybody in my circle who chooses to hold me down and to respond to my paragraphs via text or Instagram. You all are everything to me. And I also feel like it's important to say that I think sometimes in our society, we rank relationships according to the type. So for example, a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a wife and a husband, or a best friend, those are things that might hold a heavier significance in people's lives. But I want to encourage us to realize and to consider the fact that not everybody has to be your best friend, but that doesn't mean that they're not a good friend. That doesn't mean that they're not there for you when you need it and you're not there for them and vice versa. And I just feel like sometimes in our society, if you are my age and above, or maybe a little bit below, you might remember that one of the first social media platforms, MySpace, you had your top friends. And I remember having heated exchanges in various chats about, well, how is so-and-so your best friend? Because the funny thing about life is everybody kind of feels like if there's two friends, and you view your friend as your best friend, you might think that your best friend also views you as their best friend. But when it comes to things like social media and or let's say a bridal party, when somebody's closest friends or family are on display and you find yourself not being the one selected, that can kind of make you feel away. And so what I want to say in those situations, that you need to understand that your perception is not always other people's reality. So I'm just saying all of this so that we can try to not find reasons to be in contention or be in conflict, but we can recognize opportunities for maybe deep or hard conversations, or opportunities to maybe do different things. So, for example, if you realize that you are if someone calls you or texts you and you drop everything for them, but then if you're in a situation and you call that same person that you dropped everything for, but then they tell you, oh, I'm just out kicking it or I'm in for the night, then you know that how you view them and how they view you is not the same. And so somebody said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And so when you start to just take account of your life in the various different ways in which you navigate, your daily life, you may start to realize that if you stop going every time somebody texts you, and you stop working on whatever your plan is for your brand or whatever it is that you're working on, and you keep stopping what you're doing so that you can go and support somebody else, but then your thing keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed, it might behoove you to pause and stop, not because you don't care to support your people, but so that you can truly build what you're trying to build, and not just build it just for the sake of building it. But most people, I find, are building things so that they can help other people, whether that is so that they can create jobs and opportunity for other people, or whether it is to create an opportunity to create, or an opportunity to, I don't know, be tutored or mentored or whatever it is. Most people, by and large, aren't on a mission just to get rich just because. Most people want to change their financial predicament because there are people in their lives that they want to be a support for in a bigger way. And so what I'm saying is that in order for us to do that, I'm not going to say that there's a specific formula, but what I will say is that there are certain strategies that when employed, they do work. And so I have seen in my own life and in the lives of others that when we have chosen to prioritize what it is that we are working on, a brand or a podcast or a book or a TED talk or whatever it is, when we choose to not show up at whatever X is event, in unapologetically, because sometimes when somebody invites you to something, you might feel like you need to explain the reason why. First of all, we're all grown, so you don't have to explain nothing to nobody. And secondly, I kind of look forward to when people ask me, well, why not? And I usually let that question hang in the air for a while, right before it becomes uncomfortable. And then, depending on the person and the relationship, I will say that, well, one, I'm a parent. Two, I choose not to stretch myself to the fullest capacity of stretching myself extra thin, because I don't want to disappoint a person. Because there was a time in my life when somebody would invite me to something, I could be sick, tired, or however, but I would show up because I felt like I had to. At this point, I'm very, very, very selective with what I choose to do with my time, not just because I'm being funny acting, but because I am, in fact, building something. And sometimes I need time to recharge and recoup, even though I don't often have that opportunity to do so, given that I'm a solo parent. But sometimes I need a mental break. And so that means that I don't always have the capacity to, like I call it, people, or the capacity to interact. I don't always have that. And so I have started in the last, I would say, at least 8 to 10 years, I've started to tap in more and more with myself. And so in doing so, I have seen my life greatly benefit from the fact that I have stuck to my boundaries. And so,
Tasha, really quick, I just want to let you know that your words are having an impact and people are engaging with you. It's Sean NYC is in IG, Instagram. He says, we have to make sure the people we choose as friends know how to be a good and genuine friend, because not everyone knows how to be a genuine friend. He also made the remark, you are not who you are. Wait, you know who your real and genuine friends are when you reach your lowest point in your life. And he also says, if you're not on top of your friends list to hang out, then they don't regard you in the same way that you may regard them. Okay.
thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to engage with my content. And I am relieved to know that some of what I am saying is hitting or making an impact, because I show up every time, every week, because I feel like these are things that we need to talk about. These are things that we need to discuss. And quite honestly, I am tired of seeing people in my life struggle. And I want us all to do better. And I understand, like I said, that all of us are going through things, and trust and believe, even though you might not be able to see that I am going through difficulty, because I am able to, quote unquote, compartmentalize it. That doesn't mean that there aren't times where I'm standing in the shower crying, or there are times when I just feel like I'm barely holding on emotionally, but then somebody will, check in with me and say, hey, I saw something that you did and that made a difference in my day. And so just hearing that little bit of encouragement, I might have been way off the tracks emotionally, but when I'm able to get that positive feedback, then it's like, okay, well, everything I'm doing isn't in vain. Because sometimes when you're going through something, you might feel isolated, like it's just you, or everybody else seems to be getting opportunity after opportunity. Or, during the holidays, it might have seemed like every single somebody that you might know had matching PJs on with somebody else. And you're like, well, when is it going to be my turn? So I just want you to say that in order for it to be your turn, you have to make it your turn in your life. In other words, like this cup says, main character energy. You have to choose to not just be a part on the sidelines or an observer of your life. You have to realize that you have the power to push forward. You have the power to change your narrative. Even if it's a small change, change only happens when we actually start to change ourselves. And the first way I feel to do that is to change our mindset. And so step one, as I talked about earlier, is writing. Is one way to change our mindsets. Two, the books that you read or the content, if you're always just in a certain circle or in a certain same routine, and you're never injecting or giving yourself the opportunity to get in new information, if you're never networking with people outside of your circle, then that same repetitious thought might be going on in your mind and might be the thing that's stopping your forward progression. And so I just want us to know that we can achieve, we can push forward, but to do so, we need to institute small habits. And so the next thing is be aware of your circle. Be aware of the time that you're spending with other people. Take note on how do you feel after the exchange? So let's say you choose to go out and do whatever it is you decide to go do. When you come home, do you feel motivated? Do you feel uplifted? Do you feel creative? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel motivated? Or do you feel drained? Do you feel like you're just bogged down by all of the things? If you feel like that, a lot of the time, or most of the time, you might need to adjust your surroundings so that you're able to position yourself in the mental space that you need so that you can continue moving forward. And again, that isn't to say that you're to stop, I'm not suggesting that you don't be the shoulder for somebody. But what I am saying is that somebody needs to be your shoulder, or somebody needs to be the person that bounces back information to you, or somebody needs to be your accountability partner, or to be your reflection, to be like, yo, if you said that your goal was to podcast, but I haven't seen you even look at the prices of microphones, or I haven't seen you look at any of the show notes of a podcast, or I haven't seen you get any books on podcast. So what is it? You said you were going to do this thing, or you said you wanted to, get a restaurant, or you said you wanted to open a barbershop, or a nail salon, or a bakery, whatever it is that you said you wanted to do. You need to have somebody in your life that is holding you accountable for what you're saying, so that you have that motivation to perform. Kind of like sports. When you're on team sports, whatever sport it is, the people that are putting in the time, it's obvious that they have a connection and a flow, because they're spending and they're putting in the time to be able to have that flow. And so therefore they get results, whether it is, the head of the division or whatever have you. When you don't put in the same level of effort, there's few times in life that you are able to recoup, or you're able to get higher than what you put in. So I also want you to realize that when you're building the foundation, you're going to be expending a lot of energy. You're going to be expending a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of everything, because you're setting the foundation. However, once you have that foundation, you will start to see that your systems that you've instituted and that you've put in place are starting to make a difference. So you will notice that when you put in a lot of work on the front end, you will start to benefit. And once you start to benefit, kind of like, I don't know, you can think about it like planting a seed. Everybody's always talking about seeds and planting and trees and roots. You need to know your roots. Yes. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that once you plant a seed, everybody knows that a seed is only going to grow if it's nurtured. So that means the seed needs to be in the right light for the right amount of time. It has to have the right amount of nutrients in the soil. It has to have the right amount of water. So in other words, these are things that you're doing because you have faith, whether or not you realize it or not. Your actions show your level of belief in yourself. And so if you just get some seeds theoretically and the seeds stay in the packet, those seeds obviously will never grow into nothing except for maybe, I don't know, some sort of bacteria or whatever it is that happens when you keep seeds too long. But the point here is that the seed can only grow once it's planted and nurtured. So if you plant or start, but then don't finish, but then say, well, X doesn't work. It's not that it didn't work. It's that you gave up, that you didn't continue to do the work in order for you to be able to see the progression. And so I'm going to end there. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Womanhood Decoded for this new year, 2025. I will be here in studio on Friday, same time, same place, for my second podcast called Red Lipstick Conversations. And so again, thank you for being a part of my online community, A Village for Us. And please take some time to think about your plan, whatever it is. And I want to issue a challenge. So the challenge is to tell one person one thing that you hope to change or shift in your life. So if it's weight, ask somebody in your circle, hey, I'm trying to lose some weight. So if you see that I'm eating an abundance of something, why don't you remind me that I had a goal? And so, or if you are a person that is looking to start a podcast, tell somebody so that person can then hold you accountable to at least begin the process. Because trust me, there is always going to be room for improvement. There's always going to be room to do better, but you have to start somewhere. So again, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you later on this week. Until next time, bye-bye.